no recognizable ones. One of those was Windy and Warm, right? An old favorite from Chet and Doc Watson later on, I think, too.
Yeah, that was a John Loudermilk tune.
Old Loudermilk tune.
Yeah, that he wrote for Chet, or actually John started writing it and Chet finished it before he could get it done. And that was John's, his recollection of it. But that was the tune that I guess really turned me on to Chet. I remember hearing that on the radio when I was a kid. It was a kind of a big tune when it came out.
So
that got me interested in the finger picking. Actually, is how is he making that sound? Or how do you make that sound?
I think it's a really perplexing sound to most people who play the guitar. They realize that this stuff is really not approachable. It takes a long time to figure out how to pick out these melodies and keep that thumb going.
Well, it takes practice, is what it takes.
Is that what it is?
And, well, it's a lot easier now than it used to be because you have so much stuff out, YouTube and so much stuff you can see, free tutorials and step-by-step instructions and how-tos and demonstration. So it's probably bigger now than it's ever been. And when I was a kid, there was just nobody around hardly, just maybe one or two people. And the way you learned back then is you bought a record and you slowed it down and you played it over and over, and you found the notes or the runs.
It's true, and I think there's an important thing there. The fact is, the accessibility of a lot of the music that we have now and learning these things. Do you think that affects the way that folks learn? And I mean, when you have to pick out a tune on a record and you're listening nonstop over and over and over, I think it seeps in a different way sometimes than it does with quick kind of access. But I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I wonder about that a little bit from time to time. It's maybe music by the numbers would be a good way to explain it. How people paint by the numbers.
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of music by the numbers, and it depends, I guess, on the person, what they want to do. And some people, they're content to learn a tune and then they keep playing it that way. And I guess classical music is an example of that. It's where things are written out in a certain way and you play it that way over and over. It doesn't vary any.
Right, not much room for improvisation.
Yeah, and I think when you have to figure things out a little bit on your own, it makes you think a little more, and maybe some other things occur to you.
Process is very, very different. That's even from when I was a kid. I think that I remember listening to Blind Blake when I was like 13 years old and just having no clue as to what in the world to do. And it took me about 7 years of just listening to it before I could to even think about trying to pick any of those notes out. Talk a little bit about so you're self-taught. Chet Atkins has clearly been a huge role model to you as a player. How did you kind of get into the guitar and learning how to finger pick like this?
Oh, well, let's see. I always, had something in my hand, a guitar, ukulele, fiddle, or, everybody in my family played, so it was just inevitable, I guess. But I think maybe I was about 8 years old, and when I had my first guitar, you know, and I'd play straight pick, you know, strumming and chording, and I think I was about 12 or 13 when I first heard Chad, you know, and before that I had an aunt that lived up in Kingsport, and she taught guitar, give guitar lessons, and she was the first person that I ever saw thumb pick.
Really?
Yeah, and her name was Ethel Myers, and I guess I was about 9 or 10, somewhere around in there, and she played me a tune one day, and she says, "This is Xenia," and Chet plays it on the Opry, and she played Xenia, you know, and I'd never heard it before, and I thought, wow, what's this? And I saw it and I heard it, but it didn't really sink in what it was, or, you know, and so later on I heard, you know, the name again on the radio, you know, when I got a little older, Chet Atkins, Windy and Warm, and then it started sinking in, you know, and I still really didn't know. You know, I would try, but there just wasn't anybody around here, you know, that could show you. And I got in high school, and a friend in high school had a guitar, and he figured it out, the thumb style, you know, and he showed me. So let's see his name. What was his name? Kenny Clausen was the guy's
Kenny
name.
Clausen.
I went to high school with him, and he's the guy that figured out the thumb style. That alternating bass.
Which is, yeah, the
And
foundation
I saw
of
him
it.
do
Yeah.
that one day, and I says, "Kenny, how did you do that?" And he showed me how, and I think he even loaned me his guitar for about a month, you know. So he's the guy that really put me onto the thumb style, you know. And so once I had that, you know, it was a matter of figuring out, you know, what to play.